All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to follow the journey of an idea. From just a simple thought, that wouldn't it be cool if moment, all the way to a real working tool on the web. It's a perfect example of what some people call vibe coding. Basically, just figuring it out and building as you go. It's going to be fun. So take a look at this. It might look like just a simple image, right? A progress bar. But it's not. This is actually a tiny little program. And the coolest part, it's powered entirely by its own URL. We're going to break down exactly how that works, how this thing is actually a live, data-driven graphic that changes based on the info in its own web address. Wild, right? Okay, so where does an idea like this even come from? Well, like a lot of the best tools out there, it started with a really simple everyday problem. There's this creator, Rob, and he just wanted a super easy way to show his progress on his blog. He wasn't looking for some fancy, complicated widget, the kind of thing that might slow down his site or even get blocked. Nope. All he wanted was a simple image. An image he could just link to. And here's the kicker. All the data, like his goal and how far along he was, would be baked right into the URL. I mean, how simple and brilliant is that? So, this whole idea, it taps into a really powerful concept on the web. It's this magic trick of turning a plain old image link into a live, data-driven graphic that's literally created the moment you look at it. Yeah, there's a name for this. It's often called a live pixel, or server-side image generation. Think of it this way. The URL isn't just an address for a file. It's more like a recipe. The server reads that recipe, those instructions in the URL, and cooks up a custom image for you right on the spot. And how does it work? Well, it's basically this little three-step dance. First, your browser makes the request. It asks for the image using that special URL. Step 2, the server gets the request, reads all the data in the URL, and draws a brand new image. And finally, step 3, it just sends that image back to you, just like it would with any other JPEG or PNG. To your browser, it's just a normal picture. Now, for the first version of this thing, Rob went with what's called a stateless model. And all that means is that everything, all the data is right there in the URL itself. This is awesome because you don't need to create an account, you don't need a database, nothing. The URL is the one and only source of truth. The opposite of this would be stateful, where you'd have one permanent link and the data would have to be updated somewhere else, like in a database. All right, so theory's great, but how is this thing actually built? Let's dive into the prototype. The key to getting it off the ground so fast was picking the right tool for the job. In this case, a really simple text-based image format that's way more powerful than you might think. And that choice was SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. And this was an absolutely brilliant move. Why? Because SVG files aren't really pictures in the traditional sense. They're just text, XML to be specific. That means the server doesn't have to do any heavy lifting, like drawing out millions of pixels. Nope. It just does a little bit of math and then basically does a find and replace in a text template. It's super, super fast and efficient. And when I say it's just text, I mean it's really simple text. The entire progress bar is just made up of a couple of basic building blocks. You've got a rect tag for the bars, the rectangles, and a text tag for the labels. And that's it. That's the whole thing. A whole visual element built from just a few lines of text. But you know how it is. Going from a cool idea to actual working code is never a straight line. This is where you hit the real world, and the real world has problems you need to solve. All the fun stuff. And the very first problem they ran into was a big one: security. See, anytime you take stuff that a user types into a URL and then you put that directly into a file, well, you're opening a door for a nasty little vulnerability called cross-site scripting, or XSS. So here's how it would work. A hacker could create a really sneaky URL with some malicious code hidden inside it. The server, not knowing any better, would just grab that code and bake it right into the SVG image. Then, if someone opened that image directly, the hidden script could run and do all sorts of bad things, like steal information. Thankfully, the fix for this is a classic web security move. You have to sanitize all the input. You run it through a function, in this case one called HTML special characters, and it takes all those potentially dangerous characters, like quotation marks and angle brackets, and turns them into harmless text. Threat neutralized. Okay, so with the security hole patched up, what's next? Oh yeah, a good old-fashioned coding bug. Instead of showing a nice, clean 24%, the image was literally displaying the PHP code that was supposed to do the calculation. Oops. The issue was all about timing, or more specifically, where the math was happening. The code was trying to calculate the percentage inside the big block of text for the SVG, but PHP doesn't work that way. So the fix was easy, really. You just do the math before you build the text block, store the result in a variable, and then pop that clean, finished number into the template. Problem solved.
All right, so the code's working, it's secure, but now there's a design problem. The tracker was originally made with a transparent background, looked great on a white website. But what happens when someone's using dark mode? Well, you get dark text on a dark background, which is basically invisible. And the solution here was just so simple and elegant. Instead of trying to guess what color the background might be, they just gave the tracker its own background. They added a white rectangle to the SVG, turning the whole thing into a self-contained card. Now, it doesn't matter if the website is light, dark, or bright pink, the tracker always looks great.
So, with all those hurdles cleared, let's check out the final, working tracker and see how you can actually use it yourself. And using it really is as simple as building a URL. You just chain together these little key value pairs. You set a title for your goal, you set a goal number, your current progress, and so on. The server just reads all these pieces right from the URL and draws the progress bar for you. It's that easy. Now, there are a couple of little things to keep in mind. Just a heads up, you need to avoid certain special characters like colons or slashes in your text. And it's also good to know that some newer platforms like Notion use something called an image proxy. That can sometimes stop the tracker from updating live because the platform is showing you a saved copy instead of the real thing. So, with a really solid working prototype out in the world, it's natural to start thinking, okay, what's next? Where could this little project go from here? And the future ideas are really, really cool. Remember that stateful model we talked about? A version like that would let you update your progress without having to change the URL every time. Or how about a simple web page where you just fill out a form and it spits out the URL for you? So much easier. And personally, I love the idea of adding more visuals. Imagine a street counter or a little heat map of your activity. So many possibilities. You know, this whole journey from that one simple idea to a secure, working, and honestly pretty stylish little tool, it really shows the power of that vibe coding idea. Just starting something and figuring out the problems one by one. And it leaves us with one last question to chew on. Now that you've seen how a simple URL can be turned into a dynamic image, what kind of simple tool would you build with this tech?